The rain-slicked highway stretched out like a black ribbon under the sodium glow of distant lights, and as Sarah pulled her old sedan into the motel's gravel lot, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd arrived at the edge of nowhere. It was just past midnight, the kind of hour when the world feels too quiet, too empty. The sign flickered. Highway Haven Motel. Vacancy. But as she killed the engine and stepped out, wiping rain from her face, her eyes caught on the row of doors. Rooms 1 through 10, all neatly numbered in peeling white paint, except there was no 6, just a blank space where it should have been. The numbers jumping from 5 to 7 like a skipped heartbeat. Sarah blinked, chalking it up to fatigue. She'd been driving for hours from Chicago, heading to her sister's place in Denver after a messy breakup that left her needing open road more than anything. At 32, she was no stranger to solo trips, the kind where you blast classic rock and pretend the rearview mirror doesn't hold ghosts. This motel was a necessity, not a choice. Nothing else for miles, just cornfields whispering in the wind and the occasional truck rumbling past. She grabbed her overnight bag from the trunk, the damp air carrying the faint scent of wet asphalt and fried onions from some long-closed diner nearby. The office was a squat building at the end of the lot, its window lit by a single bulb. Inside, the clerk was a middle-aged man with wire-rimmed glasses and a flannel shirt, hunched over a crossword puzzle. He looked up as the bell jingled, his face creasing into a tired smile. "Evening, ma'am. Rough night out there?" "Storm's not letting up," Sarah replied, forcing a nod. Her voice sounded thinner than she liked, swallowed by the hum of an ancient air conditioner. She slid her credit card across the counter. "Just need a room for the night." He tapped at an old computer, the keys clacking like distant gunfire. "Got plenty. Room 8 available. Clean, quiet. That'll be $60. Sarah signed the register, glancing at the ledger. Names blurred together, truckers, sales reps, the occasional family on a budget road trip. Nothing out of the ordinary for a place like this, tucked off I-80 in some forgotten corner of Nebraska. As he handed her the key, a real metal one, not a card, she hesitated. "Hey, quick question. I noticed the doors. Is room 6 out of order or something? It's just missing." The clerk's pen paused mid-air, his eyes flicking up briefly before dropping back to the puzzle. "Room 6? Nah, must be the lighting. We got all 10 rooms. Drive safe now." He turned away, muttering about the weather, and Sarah pocketed the key, wondering if she'd imagined the slight edge in his tone. Outside, the rain had eased to a drizzle, pattering against the motel's overhanging roof. She walked the length of the building, her sneakers crunching on gravel, the vacancy sign buzzing faintly overhead. Room 5's door was ajar, spilling yellow light, and the murmur of a TV, some late-night infomercial about kitchen gadgets. She passed it, then the blank space. No door, no number. Just weathered siding where one should be. Odd, but motels like this were full of quirks, outdated wiring, rooms taken out of commission without fanfare. She reached room 8, third from the end, and let herself in. The space was standard issue. Twin bed with a sagging quilt, a dresser scarred by years of guests, a bathroom with thin towels and a shower that dripped like a metronome. Sarah locked the door, drew the curtains against the highway's glow, and sank onto the bed. Her phone showed no bars, just a weak signal that flickered in and out. She texted her sister anyway. "Stuck at a motel off 80. Be there tomorrow." No response yet. It was late. Unpacking minimally, she hung her jacket and noticed the faint, musty smell, like old books left in damp storage. The room felt lived in, but impersonal, the kind of place where transients paused but never lingered. She flicked on the TV for background noise, settling on a black-and-white rerun of some detective show, the volume low. As the minutes ticked by, the storm outside picked up again, wind rattling the window frame. Sarah lay back, staring at the water-stained ceiling, her mind drifting to the breakup, Mark's sudden silences, the way he'd stare at his phone like it held secrets. This trip was her reset button, a straight shot west to clear her head. But sleep wouldn't come. Around 2 a.m., she sat up, thirsty, and padded to the mini-fridge for a water. That's when she heard it, a soft creak from the direction of the wall shared with room 7. Not the wind. More like a footstep, deliberate and slow. She froze, listening. Silence followed, thick and unbroken. Probably the building settling, she told herself. These old motels groaned like old men. Still, she checked the lock again, peering through the peephole at the empty breezeway. By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the lot puddled and the air crisp with the promise of sun. Sarah showered quickly, the hot water a brief comfort, and stepped out to return the key. The highway hummed with early traffic, semis hauling freight, a few sedans like hers cutting through the flatlands. She walked past the doors again in daylight, and there it was. The gap. No mistaking it now. The siding was seamless, as if room 6 had never existed. The numbers aligned perfectly otherwise. In the office, the clerk was brewing coffee, the pot gurgling. "Sleep all right?" he asked without looking up. "Fine, thanks." Sarah hesitated at the counter. "About that room, 6, it's really not there. Did it get renumbered or something?" He poured a cup, steam rising like a veil. "Ma'am, we don't have a room 6. Must have been a shadow or rain playing tricks. Happens sometimes out here." His smile was polite, but his eyes stayed on the coffee, avoiding hers. "Safe travels." Sarah nodded, unease prickling her skin as she headed to her car. The motel receded in the mirror, just another waypoint on the endless drive. But as she merged onto the highway, glancing at the fuel gauge, half a tank, plenty to the next town, she couldn't shake the whisper in her mind. What if it wasn't a trick? What if something was missing that shouldn't be? The road ahead blurred slightly, and for the first time, the open sky felt less like freedom and more like exposure. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter as the highway unfurled before her, the flat Nebraska expanse broken only by the occasional grain silo silhouetted against the morning haze. The sun climbed low, casting long shadows that danced across the asphalt like fingers reaching out. She'd put about 50 miles behind her since leaving the motel, but the image of that blank space lingered, a puzzle piece that didn't fit. It was silly, she knew, probably just some lazy maintenance, a door removed years ago and never replaced, yet the clerk's evasion gnawed at her. The way he dismissed it like an old joke, no one bothered to explain. Her radio crackled to life sporadically, pulling in snippets of country stations and weather reports warning of lingering storms to the west. Sarah fiddled with the dial, settling on a talk show where the host droned about roadside mysteries, ghost towns, vanishing hitchhikers, the usual fodder for long drives. She almost laughed at the irony, but the knot in her stomach tightened instead. Mark used to tease her about her overactive imagination, the way she'd spin ordinary delays into signs of something more. "You're always looking for the plot twist," he'd say, his voice light but edged with that subtle judgment. Now, alone with the hum of tires on pavement, she wondered if he was right. The fuel gauge dipped lower, and signs for the next town, someplace called Elmwood, appeared every few miles. A rest area first, she decided, to stretch her legs and clear her head. The exit ramp curved gently, leading to a cluster of picnic tables and vending machines under a canopy of elms that whispered in the breeze. Sarah parked, the engine ticking as it cooled, and stepped out into air that smelled of fresh-cut grass and distant rain. A couple of semis idled nearby, drivers dozing in their cabs, but the place felt oddly serene, the kind of stop where time seemed to pause. She bought a coffee from the machine, black, scalding, and wandered toward the overlook, where a chain-link fence separated the lot from a drop-off into a shallow ravine. Below, a creek meandered through scrub brush, its water glinting like silver thread. As she sipped, her eyes drifted to a faded bulletin board pinned with flyers. Missing pets, church suppers, a notice about a local fair. One caught her attention. A grainy photo of an old motel sign, the caption reading, "Highway Haven. Have you seen this place? Stories from the road." Her pulse quickened. The sign matched exactly down to the flickering neon, but the post was dated 2 years back, from a user asking if anyone knew why rooms seemed to shift there at night. Sarah scanned the comments below, her phone finally catching a signal. Most were jokes, ghosts playing musical chairs, but one reply stood out. "Drove through last summer. Noticed the same. Clark said it's always been that way. Felt watched the whole stay." She scrolled further, a chill settling despite the warming sun. Another. "Room numbers off by 1 sometimes, like the building forgot itself." Her thumb hovered, tempted to add her own experience, but she pocketed the phone instead. Coincidences, that's all. The internet thrived on them. Back on the highway, Elmwood came into view, a sleepy cluster of low buildings hugging the interstate, the kind of town where everyone knew your business, but pretended not to. Sarah spotted a gas station with an attached diner, its sign promising home-cooked meals, open 24/7. Her stomach rumbled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday's hasty lunch. She pulled in, the bell dinging as she filled the tank. Inside the convenience store, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, shelves stocked with chips, sodas, and maps of the surrounding counties. The attendant, a young woman with a ponytail and a name tag reading Jess, rang her up. "Heading west?" she asked, her Midwestern accent warm and unhurried. "Yeah, to Denver, long drive." Sarah glanced at the local rack, postcards of cornfields, keychains shaped like tractors. "You know that motel back a ways? Highway Haven?" Jess's hands paused on the counter, her smile flickering just a fraction. "Heard of it. Truckers stop there sometimes. Why?" "Just stayed the night. Noticed something weird. No room 6, like it's missing." The woman leaned in slightly, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "Oh, that place. Folks say it's quirky. Built back in the 60s, I think. Maybe they skipped the number for luck or something. My uncle drove routes out here. He mentioned odd things like that. Doors that don't line up." She shrugged, handing over the receipt. "Small towns got their ghosts, you know. Not the scary kind, just echoes." Sarah nodded, the word echoes sticking like a burr. She thanked her and headed to the diner next door, the smell of bacon and coffee drawing her in. The place was half empty, a lone farmer at the counter nursing pie, a family in a booth poring over a map. She slid into a stool, ordering eggs and toast from a waitress who moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this shift 1,000 times. As she ate, the conversation from the adjacent booth drifted over, 2 men in flannel, voices low. "Swear it. Every time I pass that stretch, the signs feel off, like the mileage markers jump." The other chuckled, but there was no real mirth in it. "Nah, it's the flatland fever. Gets in your head after hours on the road." Sarah's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Jump, like the room numbers." She finished quickly, unease blooming again, and stepped outside to the payphone by the pumps, an antique probably for show. No signal on her cell here either. The hills must interfere. She dialed her sister from memory, the line crackling before connecting. "Claire, it's me, still on the road, but everything okay?" Her sister's voice came through, bright but concerned. "Sarah?" "Yeah. Well, good. You sound tired. That motel weired you out or something?" "Just the usual road fatigue." Sarah hesitated, glancing back at the diner. "Ever hear stories about places out here, like buildings that don't add up?" Claire laughed softly. "You're spinning tales already. Get some rest when you stop next. Love you. Drive safe." The call ended, leaving Sarah with the dial tone buzzing in her ear. She returned to the car, the tank full, but the horizon seemed heavier now, the sky pressing down with unseen weight. As she merged back onto the interstate, a semi overtook her, its trailer emblazoned with a logo she didn't recognize, something about Echo Roots Trucking. Her mind raced ahead, piecing fragments. The missing door, the online post, Jess's casual mention. Was it all connected, or was the drive unraveling her? Miles slipped by, the landscape unchanging, endless fields giving way to more fields, punctuated by billboards for motels and diners that blurred into sameness. Around noon, fatigue tugged at her eyelids, and she spotted another sign. Rest Haven Inn, 5 miles. Close enough to the last one to feel like a pattern, but she needed a break. The exit loomed, and as she took it, the gravel lot came into view, another row of doors under a flickering vacancy sign. Rooms 1 through 10. Her heart stuttered. She slowed the car, eyes scanning the facade. There, between 5 and 7, a blank space, seamless siding where a door should be, no number 6, just like before. Sarah eased her foot off the accelerator, the car's tires humming softly as she coasted into the lot of Rest Haven Inn. The place looked like a twin to the first motel. Same weathered stucco walls, same row of doors marching in a straight line under the sagging roofline, the vacancy sign buzzing with intermittent life. She killed the engine, her hands lingering on the wheel, knuckles pale against the worn leather. It couldn't be coincidence. 2 motels, miles apart, both missing the same piece. Her breath came shallow, the air inside the car suddenly thick, as if the doors had trapped her exhale. She sat there for a long minute, engine ticking down to silence, watching the facade through the windshield, streaked with bug remnants and dust. The blank space stared back, a void between 5 and 7, the siding unbroken and faded to the same dull beige as the rest. No sign of recent work, no fresh paint or boarded-up frame, just absence, deliberate and unapologetic. A pickup truck pulled in beside her, an older man in a baseball cap climbing out with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He didn't glance her way, just headed straight for the office, his boots crunching gravel like it was the most ordinary stop in the world. Sarah forced herself to move, grabbing her bag from the back seat, even though she had no intention of staying. Her legs felt unsteady as she approached the building, the sun beating down now, turning the lot into a shimmering haze. Up close, the doors were identical, chipped blue paint, brass handles dulled by years of hands. She counted them aloud under her breath, 1, 2, 3, reaching the gap. Her fingers brushed the wall there, expecting roughness, a seam, anything to suggest it had once been different. But it was smooth, the texture of the wallboard uninterrupted, as if the room had been erased from the blueprint itself. The office door creaked open nearby, spilling out the murmur of a radio tuned to static-laced news. The man from the pickup emerged, key in hand, nodding politely as he passed. "Nice day for a drive," he said, his voice gravelly from cigarettes or wind. "Yeah," Sarah managed, her throat dry. "You staying here often?" He paused, adjusting his cap. "First time in years. Used to haul grain this route back in the day. Place hasn't changed." His eyes followed hers to the doors, lingering on the skip without comment. "Rooms still hold up, though. Safe travels." She watched him disappear into room 4, the door clicking shut behind him. Safe. The word echoed Jess's shrug from the diner, that casual dismissal of quirks in the flatlands. But this wasn't a quirk, it was a pattern, repeating like a glitch in the landscape. Sarah turned toward the office, her pulse a steady thrum in her ears. The clerk inside was younger than the last one, maybe in his 40s, with a neatly trimmed beard and a lanyard badge that read, "Manager Tom." He was sorting mail behind the counter, stacks of envelopes fanned out like a hand of cards. "Afternoon," he greeted, looking up with a practiced smile. "Fuel up or need a room? We've got vacancies." Sarah leaned on the counter, the formica cool under her palms. "Actually, just curious. This place, Rest Haven, the door's outside. There's no room 6, same as the Highway Haven back up the road." Tom's sorting stopped, his fingers hovering over an envelope. He didn't look surprised exactly, but there was a flicker, something like recognition passing behind his eyes before he chuckled softly. "Highway Haven? That's 20 miles east. You must be seeing things in the heat. We got all our rooms here. Check the sign. Full set." She straightened, frustration edging her voice. "I checked. It's missing, both places, like they were built without it." He set the mail down, folding his arms. "Ma'am, these old inns go up quick after the war, you know? Interstate boom. Sometimes builders skip numbers for superstition. 13's the usual, but maybe 6 around here. Bad luck or whatever folks believed back then." His tone was even, explanatory, like he was reciting from a tour guide script. But his gaze drifted to the window, toward the row outside, and stayed there a beat too long. Sarah followed his look, and that's when she noticed it. The pickup in room 4, its tailgate still down, but the man nowhere in sight. The door was closed, yet no footsteps had echoed from inside. She shook it off, turning back. Superstition. Right. Ever had guests mention it, feeling like something's off? Tom's smile tightened at the edges. "Folks get road-weary. Mirrors play tricks. Shadows too. You need water. Got a cooler right here." He gestured to a plastic bin of bottles, ice clinking faintly. It was a deflection, smooth as the siding outside, but it landed like a wall between them. "No, thanks. Just passing through." She backed toward the door, the bell jingling like a warning as she stepped out. The lot felt smaller now, the semis on the highway roaring past like indifferent guardians. She hurried to her car, sliding behind the wheel and locking the doors. Her hands trembled as she started the engine, the AC blasting cool air that did nothing to ease the sweat prickling her neck. Driving away, the motel shrank in the rear view, but the unease clung heavier than before. The highway stretched on, mile markers ticking up 10, 11, 12, each one a small reassurance of progress. But then 13 appeared, and she blinked hard. Hadn't it been 12 last? She glanced at the odometer. Steady climb, no jump, imagination, fatigue. Still the repetition gnawed, the missing rooms like holes in the fabric of the route. By late afternoon, the sky darkened prematurely, clouds rolling in from the west like uninvited guests. Sarah's eyes burned from staring at the white lines, her mind replaying the clerk's words, the seamless walls. She needed a break, real food, not diner scraps. A sign loomed, Oak Ridge, next services 2 miles. The town appeared as a smudge on the horizon, rooftops, a water tower painted with a faded eagle. She took the exit. Winding through quiet streets lined with ranch-style homes, lawns manicured despite the dry spell. The main drag held a hardware store, a library with a flag snapping in the wind, and a small cafe called Prairie Stop. Inside, the air smelled of fresh pie and percolating coffee, booths upholstered in faded vinyl. Sarah claimed a corner table, ordering a club sandwich and iced tea from a waitress who moved with the unhurried grace of someone rooted deep in this soil. As she waited, her phone buzzed, a weak signal, but enough for a search. She typed, "Missing room motels, Nebraska," thumbs flying. Results flooded in, forum threads, old articles about roadside oddities. One post caught her eye from a trucking blog dated 5 years back. Echo motels. Ever notice how some spots on I-80 repeat? Same layout, same vacancy hum. Skipped rooms in half a dozen, like the highway's folding on itself. Comments piled up, dismissals mostly, but a few echoed her chill. "Felt eyes on me all night. Numbers wrong when I left." The sandwich arrived, but her appetite had vanished. She pushed it around the plate, listening to the cafe's hum. Locals chatting about crop yields, a radio playing soft jazz. Normal, grounding, yet when she glanced out the window, across the street stood a low building with a sign half obscured by vines. Oak Ridge Rooms, clean beds. Another motel, right in town. She paid quickly, heart racing, and crossed the street, the pavement warm under her shoes. The doors lined up neatly, 1 to 10. And there, between 5 and 7, the void. No door, no number, just the blank stare of the wall. Sarah stood frozen, a car horn blaring from the highway as if to jolt her back. This wasn't superstition. It was everywhere, woven into the route like a secret code. Who built them this way? Why hide it? The questions swirled, isolation closing in as the clouds thickened overhead. The first drops of rain pattering down. She retreated to her car, the wipers swiping rhythmically as she merged back onto the interstate. Denver was still hours away, but the road felt altered now, each mile a potential repeat. In the glove compartment, her old road atlas lay untouched. She pulled it out at the next straightaway, flipping to the Nebraska page. Dots marked towns, lines traced highways, but the motels, Highway Haven, Rest Haven, Oak Ridge, clustered tighter than they should, as if the map itself was complicit. Her finger traced the route, and a whisper of doubt crept in. Had she really driven the distance she thought? The rain picked up, blurring the world outside, and Sarah drove on, the missing rooms echoing in her mind like footsteps in an empty hall. The rain hammered the windshield like an insistent Morse code, turning the highway into a watercolor smear of greys and greens. Sarah's hands ached from gripping the wheel, the atlas open on the passenger seat, its pages fluttering in the recycled air from the vents. She traced the lines again and again, but the distances mocked her, Highway Haven to Rest. Haven should have been 20 miles, not the 15 her odometer insisted on. Oak Ridge had slipped in even closer, as if the map was shrinking under her gaze. She snapped it shut, shoving it back into the glove compartment with a force that rattled the loose change inside. It was the weather, the fatigue, the endless flatness playing with her sense of scale. Nothing more. Thunder rumbled in the distance, low and prolonged, vibrating through the car's frame. The radio, which she'd tuned to for distraction, hissed with static, the signal dropping out mid-sentence from a meteorologist warning of flash floods in low-lying areas. Sarah muted it, preferring the wiper's steady thump to the fractured voice. Denver was marked at another 100 miles, but the sky pressed down, shortening the horizon to a vague promise. She needed to stop again, eyes burning, mind looping through the clock's deflections, the seamless walls that hid nothing and everything. A sign flickered through the downpour. Nightfall Motel, 3 miles, hot showers and coffee. She almost drove past the exit, but the pull was magnetic, a weary inevitability. The ramp curved into another gravel lot, puddles forming craters that her tires splashed through. The building emerged from the mist, like a half-remembered dream, stucco walls, overhanging roof dripping in sheets, doors numbered in peeling sequence. 1 through 10. Sarah slowed, heart sinking as her eyes locked on the inevitable gap. Between 5 and 7, the void yawned, rain tracing rivulets down the unbroken siding. It was the 4th one now, each iteration more insistent, as if the highway itself was unraveling a thread she couldn't see. The car idled, engine humming softly against the storm's roar. She didn't get out this time, just sat there, watching rain blur the facade into abstraction. The office light glowed faintly through the deluge, a beacon for the road-weary. Part of her wanted to march in, demand answers. Blueprints, history, anything to fill the blank, but the pattern had worn her down. Explanations felt as flimsy as the map's ink. Instead, she scanned the lot, empty save for her sedan and a lone van at the far end, its windows fogged. No movement inside. The vacancy sign buzzed erratically, the word vacancy flickering like a hesitant invitation. A knock on her window jolted her. Sharp, 3 raps that cut through the rain. Sarah flinched, her breath fogging the glass. Outside stood a figure in a yellow rain slicker, hood pulled low, face obscured by water beading on the brim. He gestured for her to roll down the window, his gloved hand pressing against the pane. She hesitated, thumb hovering over the button. The isolation of the lot suddenly acute. No one else around, just the storm, and the motel's silent vigil. Cracking the window an inch, she leaned away. "Yes? Ma'am, you need a room?" His voice was muffled by the hood and the downpour, but it carried a folksy lilt, the kind that belonged to these endless plains. "Storm's getting bad. Got space in 9. Dry towels. Fresh brew." Sarah's eyes flicked to the doors, the gap pulling her gaze like a magnet. "No, thanks. Just looking." She paused, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "The rooms. Why is there no 6? I've seen it at 3 places today. Same thing every time." He didn't move, rain sluicing off his slicker in steady streams. For a moment, the only sound was the water drumming on the roof. Then he tilted his head, the hood shifting enough to reveal a lined face, eyes shadowed but steady. "No 6? Huh. Been managing spots like this for 30 years. Builders back then, after the interstate cut through, they poured these up fast. Foundations poured wrong sometimes, you know. A room that never took, like a tooth pulled before it grew in. Folks notice, but it fades. Highway moves on." His words hung in the air, simple as the rain, but they landed with a weight that pressed on her chest. A room that never took. Not missing, but unborn, a space the world had decided against. She wanted to press him, names of builders, old records, but he straightened, stepping back. "Safe drive if you're going, but if you change your mind." He nodded toward the office, then turned away. Boots splashing through puddles as he vanished into the downpour. Sarah locked the doors, her mind reeling. The van at the end of the lot caught her eye again. Had it been there before? The windows were clearer now, wiped by the rain, and she swore she saw a silhouette shift inside, just an outline against the dim interior light. Watching or imagining, her nerves fraying like the Atlas's edges. She shifted into reverse, tires spinning briefly in the mud before catching traction. As she pulled out, the lot receding in the mirrors, the vacancy sign's buzz seemed to sync with her heartbeat. On, off, on, off. The highway swallowed her again, the storm easing to a persistent drizzle that smeared the taillights of distant trucks into red halos. Sarah drove mechanically, the miles blurring, but the revelation settled deep. These weren't anomalies, but echoes of a deliberate design. Motels built on the cheap, rooms omitted not for luck or error, but to balance some unseen ledger. Space for the roads forgotten, the transients who paused too long. Or maybe it was the land itself, the flat expanse, swallowing what didn't fit, leaving gaps like breaths held in the wind. By dusk, the clouds parted, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. Denver's lights winked on the horizon, a constellation of normalcy. Sarah's sister would be waiting with takeout and questions, the breakup a distant ache now overshadowed by the day's unraveling. She merged toward the city, the interstate widening. But as she passed a final sign, "Welcome to Colorado," her eyes drifted to the shoulder. There, half hidden by overgrowth, stood the skeletal frame of another motel under construction, doors framed but unhinged. 1 through 10, with the 6th position marked empty, rebar twisting like veins in the concrete. She didn't stop. The road curved into traffic, horns and headlights pulling her forward, but the gap lingered in her periphery, a silent companion, whispering of spaces forever withheld. In the rear view, the plains stretched back, unbroken yet incomplete, and Sarah wondered if she'd ever drive without counting the doors.